Everyone ready? Well, thanks very much for joining us today. I'm here at Marsden's with Craig Laundy. He'll say a few words a bit later this morning. Also the Health Minister, Brad Hazzard, Jobs Minister, Stuart Ayres, the Customer Service Minister, Victor Dominello, and our local members, Kevin Connolly and Robin Preston. Well, it's a big day for our state, and to everyone across New South Wales, you've earned it. It's been 100 days of blood, sweat and no beers, but we've got it and we're back in action tomorrow. It's been a very difficult time for the people of our state, over 100 days of people making enormous sacrifices. Not being able to say goodbye to their loved ones, not being able to get married, businesses closed, people out of work. But the efforts that every single person right across New South Wales has made has ensured that tomorrow we can open up cautiously, safely, but importantly provide opportunity and prosperity for the people of New South Wales. So that's not on the government, that's on every single one of our people. Just yesterday I was out with Minister Hazzard in Redfern and saw the great work the health team was doing, the Justice Department, and really going out there and ensuring that those who are vulnerable in our community are able to get access to vaccination. If they are going into isolation, have that care and support available to them. But yesterday, with the Health Minister, we hit 90% first dose. New South Wales is leading our country out of this pandemic, and the vaccination rate and the increase that has occurred over this period of time, I think, has been not just leading the country, but leading the world. And that's been the secret to our success. That means that we can open up in as safe way as possible. Tomorrow, the key message I want to say today is please treat everybody with kindness and respect. I know that there's going to be some challenges as we go through this period of time. We're the only state in the country that has gone down this path early by opening up to those who are double vaccinated, and that's been important because we know that we wouldn't be able to open up in this safe way if that wasn't the case. So there will be challenges. There'll be young people for the first time in a long time pulling beers here, serving coffees, table service at restaurants. So I just ask, treat everybody like they're your neighbour's daughter or son. Because if we treat everybody with kindness and respect, if we take personal responsibility, we'll get through this difficult time. It's a time of optimism, it's a time of hope. We know that business confidence was crucial in getting our economy through last year, but importantly, we need to do it in a safe way. So the rules, as you know, are lifted tomorrow. It's an exciting day for our state, but I do want to reiterate, we need to do this in a safe way. Please treat everybody with respect, with kindness. That will be key as we move through this period of time. I'm going to ask Minister Hazzard to make some comments in relation to the importance of following the rules and the health side of things over this period of time as we open up safely. The Minister for Jobs, Stuart Ayres, will comment in relation to the importance of today for those people going back to work. And the opportunity that provides. We've given significant business support through Service New South Wales in conjunction with the Commonwealth Government during this period of time. But importantly, the best thing we can do is get people back into a job. It's an exciting day for many people across our state who've been sitting at home. To now go back into work for the very first time is incredibly positive and pleasing. So Stu's going to say a few things in relation to that. Victor's going to speak about the great work he's doing in relation to the Service New South Wales app. Obviously tomorrow you will need to provide the information on your MyGov app or your Service Australia certificate. So Victor will provide some comments in relation to that, and then Craig Laundy will talk about what it means for his business and what he's looking forward to as he opens these doors at 10 a.m. tomorrow morning. Great.
Thanks very much, Barry. It's obviously a very exciting time for us after a very long and difficult time. But I stress as Health Minister that whilst we should be able to enjoy a lot more of the way of life that we used to have, we also have to do it cautiously. We're still in the middle of a pandemic. Today we had 477 locally acquired cases of around about 86,000 tests. That tells us we still have issues in our community. You could still, when you come to a hotel or a restaurant or a cafe, potentially be exposed to somebody who has COVID. So just be cautious, just be careful. Really enjoy what we've all worked so hard for, but just be very, very cautious. The the essence of the pandemic, what has got us out of this, to this point anyway, is that we all know the basics. If we have any symptoms, any cold or flu-like symptoms, stay home. Don't go to your local pub or your cafe or restaurant. Don't spread around. Get tested. Stay at home. Follow the rules. And if you do go to a pub or a club or a cafe or a restaurant, or if you're out and about, maintain that social distancing. And we know that just 1.5 metres can just keep you that much safer. Look after people. Treat people, as the Premier said, as if they're your family. You know, there are a lot of young staff, a lot of staff who are going to be working in our hotels and our clubs and our restaurants. They're going to be giving us the opportunity for a really good time, and hopefully a cautious and sensible time. Treat those people extremely well. Don't hassle about any of the evidence about whether you've been doubly vaccinated. Just be honest, be truthful, and show the evidence if you're asked. That's the essence of actually getting us through this next phase. And it's not very far away. It's not very far away to when we'll be 80% double vaccinated. It may only be a week or two, so we're going to have more of our old way of life back very soon. But just be cautious in the intervening period. Be cautious when we get to 80%, but be cautious now. I want to thank again all the health staff who are looking after all of the people who are in our hospitals, and remind the broader community, remind all of us, that if we don't stick by the rules, we're also putting our health staff at risk. Our health staff have done an incredible job in the last 20 months. It's been them that have been at the front line, them that have put their lives day after day at risk. Please just show respect to the broader community, but also the medical staff, by exercising caution while you're enjoying these times that are much closer to the times we had before. Thank you.
Thank you, Premier, and thank you, Minister Hazzard. Tomorrow, New South Wales takes its first step on the roadmap to reopening. This is a first step. It's not mission complete. We still have a long way to go. The personal responsibility that every single one of us has as we walk on this journey is so critically important to making sure that we protect the lives and livelihoods of people across New South Wales. It's absolutely critical that you follow the rules around double vaccination. Also, if you're exhibiting any symptoms, please don't go to work, please don't go out into the wider community, visit a local retail outlet, visit a hospitality venue. All of those principles that we've been talking to you about for the last 3 months are still as valid today as they have been at any other time in the pandemic. This pandemic has had a huge impact on our economy, and plenty of people have lost their job. Tomorrow, a lot of those people who haven't been able to work will go back to work for the first time in many, many months. It's a hugely exciting opportunity for them, but it's also a time where we have to exercise personal responsibility, we have to be respectful of each other, and we have to recognise we still have a long way to go. New South Wales has done an amazing amount of work. The citizens across this state have rolled up their sleeves and they've gone and got vaccinated in world record rates. That's allowed us to reopen many parts of our economy today, but we still have to step through the 80%, the 90%, get towards the end of the year. So you have to continue to keep getting vaccinated. Getting vaccinated allows more people to go back to work and allows us to allow more of those freedoms to return. But with those freedoms comes responsibility. Responsibility to follow the rules. Responsibility to engage with businesses in a respectful way. There's going to be a lot of young people out working across our economy who are just trying to do the right thing. Stock shelves, clean plates at tables. We want to make sure that we treat them with kindness and respect. This is the message as we go into this new and exciting period of time, but I want to re-emphasise it's not mission complete. We still have a long way to go.
Well, thanks, Premier and colleagues. We have commenced a pilot in relation to the Vax Passport in the Service app in the regions. The 4 areas in the regions are Wagga Wagga, Lismore, Tamworth and Port Macquarie. The pilot is a 500-person pilot, up to 500 people. It's a closed pilot. So basically we have worked with the industry, stakeholders and selected certain areas such as clubs, aged care facilities and taxis, and then asked them to reach out to selected staff and customers to participate if they wish in the pilot. So far so good. We've already had about a week of testing. I've been one of the people that put my hand up for the test, and it's really seamless so far. It literally took me less than 2 minutes. But this will not come into place until next week, because we've got to make sure that we have the privacy and security settings in place in preparation for statewide rollout commencing the week of 18 October. Now, I just want to say that we only just got the information from the federal government about a week ago, so we're moving heaven and earth at pace to deliver this for the people of our state, because it's going to be a seamless experience using your Service New South Wales app. But in that intervening week, as the Premier said, let's be kind to each other, let's be patient. You know, it's really hard being leaders, and everyone in New South Wales are leaders, because no one else in the country are we opening up like this. So we need to be kind to each other. So in the first week, there are already 3 ways that you can demonstrate your vaccination status. Firstly, you can get a paper certificate from Services Australia. Secondly, you can get a digital certificate in your Medicare Express Plus app. Thirdly, you can also get a digital certificate in your wallet, be it a Google wallet or an Apple wallet. And already millions and millions of people right across New South Wales have already got one of those forms. So hopefully the following week will be our transition as we then move into a more opening stage when we hit the 80% mark.
For those of you that weren't downstairs, as I taught the Premier to stem a keg, it's fair to say that as a publican, he makes a hell of a Premier. Look, Premier, Health Minister, Victor, Stewie, Robin, Kev, thank you so much for all the work you have done to get us to this point. I do just want to double down a little bit on Victor's comments. This next week is going to be a little clunky. We're going to have to rely on the Medicare app, the MyGov app. You know, it's going to be people keen to get in, dealing with staff, making sure that the laws are followed. I do echo the comments of all those who have spoken today. Just be patient, be calm, and let us deal with it. I will say, and Victor's not allowed to say this, but I will say there is one practical thing you can do. If you do have your Medicare app on your phone, get to your vaccination status, take a screenshot of it and make it your wallpaper on your locked phone. Then you can just merely come up, show it to our staff on the front door, and it will be a far quicker process for us to get you in and get you seated and enjoying things. But yet again, it's a really exciting time. Tomorrow, our family's business has a couple of thousand people go back to work that haven't been working for 4 months. We're all excited, but we do want you to come back, enjoy yourselves, but do so responsibly and work with us to make sure that we can make your experience as pleasurable as possible. But again, thank you, Dom, to you and all the team for everything you've done.
Thanks, Craig. I'm getting beer all over my face, but it's a great experience, and I guess I'll be looking for a job with you down the track anyway. Questions? Let's go.
Premier, from tomorrow, From tomorrow, yeah, you go.
Go out.
There was some pretty concerning vision coming out of Manly overnight, and also some of the eastern beaches as well. People already seemingly out celebrating.
Yeah.
Are you worried about that? I mean,
Well, we asked, Alex, yesterday, we made the point. We had 2 days to go. Everyone has made enormous sacrifices to keep people safe, and we need to keep doing that. And even as the Health Minister has pointed out, as we open up tomorrow, there are still rules in place to keep people safe. Social distancing, there are restrictions on outdoor gatherings. Now that's being lifted tomorrow to 30. But at the same time, we ask people to keep to those rules, because we don't want to go back. We want to keep going forward. We're doing this in a measured way, opening up our state. The fantastic opportunity for people to get back into work tomorrow is incredibly important. We've still got to be driving the vaccination rate. Yesterday, double dose at 72.8%. We aren't there yet. There is a long journey ahead. As Minister Ayres said, this is not over. The more that we look after each other, the more that we follow the rules that are in place, and we do this in a mature, relaxed way, but at the same time looking out for everyone, looking out for your neighbours, and as the point's been made, young people as well. So many young people going back to work tomorrow. Many will be nervous, but treat them like your family. So it's going to be a challenge. As Craig's pointed out, it's going to be a bit difficult at times, Please be patient, but for those, and obviously some of those scenes yesterday, I'd say, continue to follow the rules. It's one day to go. It's a beautiful day outside today, but please follow the rules, and that's going to keep us safe, and that means we can get people back into work. So it's not the government that's done this. The government hasn't achieved this feat. It's the people of our state, all the sacrifices you've made. I met someone yesterday, who's incredibly pleased that, his grandmother passed away at 102. Now they're allowed to have 100 people at the funeral this week. So, there's the efforts that people have made have ensured great opportunity for everybody across the state. And we've all gone through difficult times, but if we keep following the rules that are in place from our health team, will ensure that we can continue to get people back to work, get to that 80% double dose rate, and that's why we can't lose momentum here. We are leading the country. Let's just keep going.
Premier, is this it?
Okay.
Premier,
Premier,
is this...
the rest of the country is going to be watching from tomorrow onwards. It's a big test. Are you prepared for what's next, especially if cases do skyrocket?
Look, we would expect cases to increase as we open up. But the key to our freedom has been our vaccination rate. I'm just going to keep making the point that we can get that double vaccination rate up. 72.8% yesterday. We are not there yet, but hitting that 70% mark means that we can lead the nation in opening up, and we want to lead Australia out of this pandemic. We won't get everything right. We haven't got everything right last year. I mean, this is a pandemic, there's uncertainty, and you've got to make the best decisions on the best advice that you've got. And that's what we do as a government here. All the ministers have collective responsibility. We discuss matters, we debate matters, and we make the decisions which we think are in the best interest of the people of our state. We know there'll be challenges. I mean, Victor spoke about the challenges with the app that are coming. And Craig's on the front line here with his pubs across the state. We know there's going to be difficulties, but the alternative is to stay closed. We don't want to do that. We want to provide opportunity for people to get back into work, to get back on with their lives. We want to get back to where life was before the pandemic. And the key to that is not the government. The key to that is every person across the state continuing to make the efforts we've all made over the last 18 months. And I believe, and I have complete confidence in the goodwill, in the kindness and respect that people across New South Wales will treat people with as we move through this period from tomorrow.
Premier, is this the last day we'll spend in lockdown?
Well, that's certainly the intention of this government. As I've said, vaccination is key to opening up. We've achieved that. We know, as the Health Minister does, in relation to the federal roadmap, which we're committed to. I mean, there'll be certain different approaches taken by different states. I think I was talking to some of the premiers yesterday, and yeah, there's no doubt they're watching New South Wales and how this works. But part of that federal roadmap is that if there are cases and challenges at times, that we would have targeted restrictions in place. That is the approach that we want to take. But obviously, it's not a perfect science. We will continue to monitor and adapt our policies as we move through. But I'm incredibly confident of the opening tomorrow. I'm incredibly confident of the work this government has done. From the top to the bottom, everybody's made enormous efforts, and and both sides of politics doing the same thing, communicating with their constituencies. That's incredibly important as we come together to get through this time.
Premier, if I could ask you a question about from tomorrow, the LGAs of concern. They're no longer, and does anyone in any town or local government area have to stay in their area from tomorrow?
Well, tomorrow we ease those rules. And what a great thing is, I've always said, I said this weeks ago, I don't want to see a tale of two cities. I want Sydney to open up together. The reality is we've made decisions based on where there were high cases of the virus. And what a great effort the people of Western Sydney have made. That, just like the people of the Northern Beaches last year made enormous efforts when it was targeted in that area in terms of where there was an outbreak of the virus, the people of Western Sydney have come together and they've got vaccinated in record rates. And that means we could have achieved what I wanted to achieve all those weeks ago, and that is that we open as one great city. There shouldn't be an east versus west divide. We are one people. We are in an enriched state. And I'm incredibly pleased by the efforts that every single person, every single family has made. And we're here today with an exciting day tomorrow because of that effort from everybody across New South Wales.
Premier, you foreshadowed.
James.
Yeah. Will the 20-person booking limit for hospitality venues be scrapped at the 80% vaccination threshold? Because you told businesses like Craig's over here that they will be allowed to welcome bookings for unlimited numbers of people up to 80%.
Well, those decisions weren't made as being cleared by the cabinet. I think there was an issue in relation to.
and very deeply agreed to it before CPC.
Yeah, well, I was unaware of that. and the ministers of CPC were unaware of that. But we'll make decisions that we believe are right as we open up in a safe way. Now, that was a decision at 80%. We're always considering the settings at various points in time, and we will do that. But we're not going to make policy on the run here. We're going to do this in a well thought through, measured way, listening to the advice, the health advice, the mental health advice, the economic advice, and we'll make those decisions. But it's going to be a great day tomorrow. We want to open up. We want to open up safely, and we'll continue to work with industry. And I think what sets New South Wales apart, and I particularly want to thank Victor Dominello, Stuart Ayres, the former Deputy Premier. I mean, the work that has gone on behind the scenes with industry groups, with businesses, has been incredibly important. And I think that communication has been key. Because when you make decisions like that, when Cabinet makes decisions, we've got to be connected to the impacts on the ground. And I think going along this journey, just as it hasn't been everybody across the state that's worked with the government, it's been people like Craig, the amount of meetings behind the scenes. We've made Zoom a lot of money, I think, during this period of time. The discussions that we've had to get businesses working with government has just been crucial and key. And that's why I have so much confidence tomorrow, because it's not government leading the way, it's the entire community that's been part of this. So I'm very happy about tomorrow. I think it's going to be done in an incredibly well way in difficult circumstances. And as I said again, please treat everyone with kindness and respect. Please be patient. There'll be difficulties along the way, but if we work together, we'll get it done.
Just on international travel, you foreshadowed bringing that to the 1st of November now. That's 2 weeks ahead of what the federal government said. Can you tell us about that decision? Have you consulted with industry or airlines ready to go? Is the home quarantine system ready to go?
Well, Stuart Ayres is doing a lot of work on this. And we want to open our international borders as quickly as possible, as safely as possible. We can't live here, as I've said before, as a hermit kingdom on the other side of the world. We need to rejoin it. And if people are double vaccinated, it makes complete sense for them to return to Australia in better settings than being cramped up in a hotel for 2 weeks, particularly in circumstances where we're getting close to that, or we've now hit 70% double vaccination. So Minister Ayres is conducting a pilot right now. He's due to bring something back to the Cabinet. If he wants to make a few comments, I might ask him to in a few moments. But we will look at the outcomes of that pilot, and if we can expedite it and bring it forward, we will. We want to get returning Australians home first and foremost. There are so many people who are still on the other side of the world who want to come home. So we want to bring Australians back. And if that means that New South Wales can do that as well for people who live in other states, we want to help them with that. This is going to be a partnership, but if other states need to remain closed because their vaccination rates are lower and we're higher, then if we can help other states in terms of bringing their Australians home, as we have over the last 18 months, we will. Just Queensland should pay that bill. Yeah.
Premier, with the hospitalisation rates and those needing ICU wards, they continue to trend down.
Yep.
The government modelling that was released to the public several weeks ago said that we would see an increase and hospitals would be overwhelmed by the end of this month and early November. Why do you think that modelling got it so wrong compared to where we are right now?
Well, look, I'm not a health expert. We'll listen to the health advice in relation to those matters, but there's no perfect model. You don't have a model where you type in pandemic case numbers and what's going to occur. It's not a precise.
Do you have any idea of what's different or what's changed?
It's not a precise science. It's incredibly pleasing. It's incredibly pleasing that the case numbers and hospitalisation rates are lower than where we expected them to be. That has assisted us in being able to bring forward some of the changes we made at 70%. But this challenge is not over. It is not over by a long way. We still have to, and this is the thing, if everybody is able to make those efforts as we move forward and keep the social distancing going, and the other rules that are in place, the outdoor gathering limits, the 4 square metre rule inside, which Craig will be running here, if we can keep that going and we keep the case numbers down and we keep the hospitalisation rates down, then we'll be able to open up more and more as we move through this period of time. So we'll continue to look at the health data through our subcommittee that I believe will be meeting this week, and we'll see. But look, it's not a precise science, but it's obviously very pleasing to see where those numbers are. And if we can continue that trend, which may be a challenge as we open up, then that's going to be great for the people of our state.
How will you ensure that the rules for unvaccinated people will be followed and met? Will there be inspections or fines? How are you going to?
Yeah, well, there's obviously fines in place to ensure that businesses and individuals, as we have said, abide by the rules that are in place. And you know, I don't like rules as much as the next guy, but the reality is these are in place to keep people safe. The alternative of not doing what we're doing is we would have businesses closed for a lot longer. This approach ensures that we keep people safe. If you look at the hospitalisation rates, it is very, very clear. Vaccination keeps you safe. It keeps your friends safe, your family safe. So that's been crucial. And we believe, and I've gone out and met a lot of businesses. I know there will be challenges. There's no doubt there'll be challenges. There's no doubt they'll be played on the news. I accept that. But in the main, we can't let perfection be the enemy of the good. What we have to do is get businesses back open, get people back into work. But we can only do that if people show respect for each other, be kind, be patient. There's the MyGov app, which has the details on there. In addition to that, through Services Australia, you can download a vaccination certificate. The discussions I've had with industry, the discussions I've had with businesses, is they're pumped up. They're ready, they're excited, and they're confident they can get this done, but please treat them with respect.
Premier,
Absolutely
what's
worried,
the
Premier.
first thing you're going to do tomorrow?
I'm going to get a well, I've got to do some interviews. I'm going to get a haircut. That's what I'm doing.
Premier, can I just ask,
No,
can I ask, venues like this that are bigger, they have security, they can manage any unruly people that might try and get through the door. But what about staff at smaller venues that can't afford security at the door, that are worried about the safety of their workers? I mean, how are we going to keep them safe?
Well, obviously for smaller business, it's going to be challenging. But the feedback I've had from smaller cafes, from smaller restaurants, from smaller bars, they're excited and they're confident. They're excited and they're confident. In fact, I was out in Castula the other day with Minister Ayres and spoke to Linda, and she has it all worked out. She's got 2 square metres set up for outside, for a few tables outside, for a few tables inside, and she's positive, and she believes and has faith in her local community that everybody will treat everybody with respect as we go through this. Now, I accept at times that might not occur, but if we work together as a state, as we have over the last 12 to 18 months, we will get through this period of time. And we wouldn't do that if we didn't have faith in our people. I have complete faith in the people of New South Wales, that they will show respect, abide by the rules as we move through this period of time, and that allows people to get back to work, to open their businesses and get back to the way life was.
It sounds like you're very worried about people, abusing bar staff or wait staff and the like, particularly around the Medicare Act. Can you give all of these businesses a guarantee that the Service New South Wales Act will be up and running by the 18th of October to display vaccination status, because it's already 5 days away?
Well, Victor's spoken clearly about the app. We will be, I think the Service New South Wales app is world leading. In fact, one of our key areas of success here in New South Wales has been work that occurred prior to the pandemic. Remember those old Labor days with the old RTA? You wouldn't want the RTA to be running QR checking codes, but the fact that Service New South Wales, their digital platform, has led the way, has enabled this seamless transition and allowed on the first wave last year many of our businesses to get open quickly, because the tracking and tracing teams were instrumental in being able to keep businesses going over the course of last year. So tomorrow you will have, and let's also be clear, there's no other state that has the Service New South Wales app the way we do. So we will have, like every other state, when they go through this period, the MyGov app. You will have the capacity and the ability to download your vaccination status through Services Australia. It's a certificate that you can get. So it's for those who don't use iPhones like Victor does, you can do it that way. And then Victor is conducting the trial this week. We've done that in the past with Dine and Discover vouchers and things like that. We trial them, we check if there's any kinks in the system, and then
Is this going to be as late as Dine and Discover one?
Look, James, we'll work through that. This is new technology, but it's leading the way. It's not essential. It's a bonus. It's not essential. What's essential is that people are able to demonstrate their vaccination status. You can do that through your MyGov app. You can do it through a Services Australia certificate. And then if this trial is successful with Service New South Wales, which I have every confidence it will be, then you'll have a seamless transition when you work in. This is not a impediment to opening up. This is a bonus when it does. So as Craig's pointed out, when you do come into a pub or a restaurant or a cafe, and you do and you check in with your QR code, it's all there. So I don't see this as an impediment. I see this as an absolute bonus.
Minister,
What's the
NSW
reason-
on
what's
home
the
quarantine,
reason
just
for it being
quickly.
delayed?
Minister,
Oh, go Stu goes first, and then you want to ask me.
Just, so you've obviously been running trials on home quarantine for returning travellers. Where's that up to at the moment, and are you confident that system will be ready to rock come the 1st of November?
So we've started our home quarantine for a small number of people who are returning from overseas, also some Qantas crew who we've been working with through the course of the pandemic. This is very much a technology trial about testing whether the facial recognition location-based services app allows us to do that at scale. We'll be looking at that over the next couple of weeks. I think it's a really good objective to be looking at the end of October or early November as an opportunity where we can start to see caps either removed or substantially lifted for fully vaccinated people. My very clear expectation is for unvaccinated people or people who do not have a TGA recognised vaccine. Those caps will stay in place and quarantine in some form will stay for those people. We want to see Australia opened up. Sydney and New South Wales is a globally engaged city, it's a globally engaged state. There are lots of Australians who haven't been able to come home because we've needed to cap the amount of returning people coming into Sydney to be able to protect our hotel quarantine system. We know that hotel quarantine system is fast becoming redundant. It's not sustainable into the future. I want the police commissioner out of the tourism business. I want him out making sure that citizens are safe, making sure that as we reopen, citizens are doing the right thing. And that means that we've got to phase out of hotel quarantine, move people into their home. But once again, same as what it is for tomorrow at 70%, the priority will be fully vaccinated people.
Do you know how many people will be using home quarantine rather than hotel quarantine? Are you expecting 90% of travellers, 95% of travellers to go home instead?
So for the trial, it's a very small trial. It's about 35 people a week in the general population, another 50 people from the Qantas organisation, primarily aircrew, but there are a few others that are travelling with Qantas who we've been working with, like I said, for a number of months. My expectation is that fully vaccinated people will make up the overwhelming majority, and I mean 98, 99% of people who are coming in and out of Australia. If you're an unvaccinated person or a person who's not from or doesn't have a TGA recognised vaccine, we will have no choice but to have a very low cap for those people so they can be in some form of monitored quarantine. So the message overseas is the same message as here. Make sure you're vaccinated. That's going to make life travelling much easier. And for Australians who want to travel overseas, make sure you're very aware of what the conditions will be when you return home. A lot of people I know are itching to go overseas, but you've got to be aware of what those conditions are when you come home. Each state is different. Quarantine is moving at different speeds based on the vaccination rates in each individual state.
Mr. Dominic, do you mind if I ask, what's the reason the trial has been delayed?
The trial hasn't been delayed.
It was supposed to be up and running, like on the 6th,
October 6th.
October
The
6th.
trial.
Yeah.
No, we've been conducting in-house trials, testing, for the last week. So there's already been about 100 people, I'm one of them, that's part of that testing initiative. And then we're doing the outward-facing pilots commencing tomorrow.
The Prime Minister said it's not an essential part of our reopening, but it's a pretty big part of it. Does it not feel off that we're reopening without this support for businesses?
Look, as the Premier and Craig has said, it's not perfect, but nothing is ever perfect, particularly in pandemic settings. So what we've got to do is make sure that we're respectful, we're kind to one another, work with one another. There are other avenues in which to display your vaccination status. That's the reality. Hopefully come Monday the 18th, and again, hopefully as we hit the 80% mark, we will be able to seamlessly integrate the check-in with the vaccination status. So it provides that fourth option for people, that's all it does.
Were you guys waiting, was it taking a while to get the data from the federal government? Is that part of the challenges that you've had developing it?
Yeah, well, absolutely. I was talking to you about this in February this year, about the need for this to be integrated in the apps. But the reality is we need to get the information from the federal government because they've got the information on the Australian Immunisation Register. And then it needs to be, and it was then that discussion was subsequently led through National Cabinet. And the federal government had to get their house in order to make sure that they could then get that certificate in the Medicare Act. And then they moved it across to enable other providers such as Google and Apple to install it. And then, the next phase is to enable the states and territories. Now, we could easily install the vaccine certificate right now on the app, but quite frankly, that's meaningless unless it's integrated into the check-in experience, because otherwise you can use Google and Apple and some other places to have a placeholder for the certificate.
Minister, do you know what's happening with the QR code check-ins for businesses post December 1, with vaccinated people basically getting the same freedoms as everyone else? Is that going to be sticking around? When is that going to be phased out?
Look, as the Premier has said, we're always guided by health advice. So, and we're still in pandemic conditions. Let's not make any mistake about it. We're still in pandemic conditions, and it's a situation where we have to constantly assess and reassess the situation. December 1's some time away, but we know what's going to happen tomorrow.
Minister Hazard,
do you mind if we just clarify for the stay-at-home rules, will they still apply to unvaccinated people, or how will it work? Or are they completely gone?
No, what's happening is that obviously vaccinated people have special arrangements where you can go where you want to go, as in but we've never stopped unvaccinated people going out. It's just a matter of they can't go to certain venues.
just quickly,
So-
Minister
sorry.
Hazard, the testing numbers today are still pretty good. How important is it that that's maintained as we opened up?
As my colleague just said, we are still in the middle of a pandemic, and there are measures that we can all take to keep us as individuals, our family, our friends and our community safe. And they are the things that we've been doing now for the last 20 months. We know that we have to maintain the social distancing. We're lucky enough that we led the way in New South Wales. Service New South Wales led the way with a uniform QR code. Keep using the QR codes. Don't stop using the QR codes, because it helps the information that can come to you if you're in a situation where there is some proximity to somebody who's positive. Do the things that you've always done, but just enjoy life now in a way that is far freer. But just keep doing what you've always done.
Can you clarify
Sorry.
this?
Yeah, go on, James.
So this second Delta strain cluster is moving around Sydney now. Do you know how that got out of the return traveller? The second.
Look, they're still working through those issues. I stress that there's no particular concern being expressed to me from Dr. Chan or the public health team about the particular variant. What we have to understand is the Delta, well, every virus is varying all the time. And what they have found is a slight variation in the Delta variant. Keep in mind the way we actually do the serology mapping to see where these things come from is we expect there will be changes in the genetic makeup of these viruses as it progresses, as it mutates.
Is it
So there's been no, whilst there's a recognition, this one is slightly different. So far it's only been seen in quite a handful of people, and there are no major concerns at this point about it either being more transmissible or more dangerous. It's just we're aware it's there.
Is it an overseas strain, or is it a new strain that started in Sydney?
We don't know the answer to that yet. We don't know.
Sorry, can unvaccinated people then leave their LGAs and they're just obviously
We've made this clear in all the previous press conferences. You might not have been here, but there will be no 12 LGAs of concern. Sydney is as of midnight tonight, 1 minute past midnight tonight, Sydney is one great city, as it always should have been, but unfortunately this virus ruined it for a few months. But we're back together. Now we get out and enjoy it, but cautiously and carefully and politely. Thank you.
What a great ending, Brad.